In this lesson, students will be able to identify time on an analog clock to the hour, half hour, and quarter hour and represent it on a number line. Students have worked with telling time since the first grade, and by the end of second grade, students are able to tell time to the nearest 5 minutes on an analog clock. So telling time to the hour, half hour, and quarter hour on the clock should be a review. However, today we are going to also use students' understanding of number lines to be able to represent that time on a number line, a skill that will be helpful in upcoming lessons. Let's begin with a number line and begin labeling it starting at 12 a.m. or midnight. Students often confuse 12 a.m. and 12 p.m., so I'm going to put the label midnight above it to help clarify what time of day we're talking about. Now let's mark it in equal intervals representing full hours. So the first tick mark would be 1 o'clock, the next 2 o'clock, and so on. But what do I do when I get to 12 o'clock again? You'll want to discuss with your child that this is 12 p.m. or noon and label it accordingly. Then continue the number line to show the entire 24-hour cycle. Now let's look at the clock. What time is it? With the hour hand pointing directly at the 5 and the minute hand straight up at the 12, I know that it's 5 o'clock. But 5 o'clock what? A.m. or p.m.? What if I said your mom wants you home for dinner at this time? Ask your child this to give them practice distinguishing between a.m. and p.m. So where would 5 p.m. be on the number line? This is a good time to again review a.m. is from midnight to noon and p.m. is from noon to midnight. So we're going to be looking at the second half of the number line. Let's zoom in. The distance between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock is 1 whole hour. But what happens if our minute hand moves halfway around the clock? Now what time is it? Where would 5:30 be on the number line? Well, on the clock it is halfway between 5 and 6, so my number line would be the same. I will put a tick mark halfway between 5 and 6 to represent 5:30. What about 5:15? What does that look like on the clock? Let's go back to 5 o'clock. How far does the minute hand move to get to 5:15? If I partition my clock like this into 4 equal pieces, I can see that 15 minutes is 1/4, or a quarter of an hour. So on my number line, I know that I need to partition the section between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock into fourths. So I'll put a tick mark between 5 o'clock and 5:30 to represent 1/4. Remember, 1/4 or a quarter of an hour is 15 minutes, so this would be 5:15. Continuing to partition the area into fourths, I can see that 2/4 was already marked as the half, or 5:30, and 3/4 would be a tick mark between 5:30 and 6 o'clock. But what time would be represented by this tick mark? Let's look back at our clock. Starting at 5 o'clock, if the minute hand moves 3/4 of the way around the clock, how many minutes have passed? Have your student use what they already know about telling time to determine 45 minutes have passed. So it is 5:45. That means that we should label this third tick mark 5:45. Now that you know how to partition the number line for half hour and quarter hour, let's use it to find a different time on the number line. The clock shows what time school starts. Where would this be located on the number line? We know that school would begin at 8:45 a.m., so we will move to the beginning of our number line. Which hours is it between? Using our clock to help us by looking at the hour hand, I can see that 8:45 is between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So I know I need to partition between 8 and 9 on my number line. Referring back to our model, I remember that 45 minutes is 3/4 of an hour, so I will partition that section into 4 equal intervals. The half would be located in the middle and is 30 minutes. 1/4 is between the half and the whole, and 3/4 is between the half and the 9. This is where 8:45 would be located on the number line. Give your child a variety of problems to practice plotting times to the nearest quarter and half hour on the number line. Our goal today was to be able to identify time on the clock to the nearest hour, half hour, and quarter hour, and represent it on a number line. We did this by first locating the whole hours that the given time was located between, and then partitioning that area into halves or fourths as appropriate.